Yes, that is a brand new lovely intro. Thank you very much to my cousin Aaron for doing it. Welcome to Scotty and Motty. Subscribe, like, share, tell people this is what we are going to be talking about today. He's got to go. And Ten Hag. No, not you. Okay. Although you didn't give me the prompt then.
What was the prompt?
To let me know that I was starting.
I'm pointing at you.
Did you?
Right, we're going to be talking about Erik Ten Hag and Manchester United, by the way, yeah, if anyone's wondering. And that's the he's got to go. Not me, as Scotty was just saying there, but Erik Ten Hag. The time has come to cash in our chips, to say, c'est la vie, thank you, Erik. We'll always have Wembley, yeah? We'll always have that FA Cup final, but I just don't see a way forward. No. You know what I mean? You gave up after Liverpool. I said he had 3 games to save his job. 7 points was the minimum. He got 4.
I gave up after Liverpool 7-0 if I'm absolutely frank.
Yeah, but then you went all weird and started talking about 21 is coming. Then you had a dose.
21 still is coming.
Yeah.
Not with him.
Not with him. And then we all sort of stuttered along. We thought maybe there's going to be, a happy ending, but this very much felt like Spurs, the last chance saloon, no excuses, the beatable, it's Spurs, come on. And not only did we lose, we lost badly, and it just feels like now the only question is, how do Ineos go about this? Is it caretaker tackle? Do they prolong it? Because, let's just say as well, there have been a few reports from the likes of Ben Jacobs and James Ducker that Ineos aren't actually ready to pull the trigger. So there's a difference between saying he's got to go and he is going.
Yes.
And there's some indications that, from reasonable, respectable journalists as well, not just people from glorified blogs, saying that Ineos is still holding the horses a little bit because, I don't know why, but because they think maybe it's too early in the season, maybe it's because they made this big song and dance about interviewing
That's
others
exactly
and backing him.
What it is for me.
Omar Barada had a Liverpool game, basically said he's our guy, we're sticking with him. And it seems like they are being a little bit patient.
I just think that it's a lack of a replacement out there. And I think it's a huge sort of PR disaster. I'm worried about Ineos and how they've actually gone about all this Ten Hag stuff, because when they arrived, we were under the belief that they were going to be... What are you doing?
I've got the same jumper and t-shirt.
I know you have. Sorry. You're putting me off there.
Sorry,
You
could actually... Have you got the same top?
No, I haven't got the same top. And I own multiple clothes.
Oh, sauce.
All right.
Do you know what I mean?
Sorry,
who's that?
It's my mum. Mum, I'm live on YouTube now. I've got to go. My bad. I've got to phone my mum back.
Yeah, make sure you do.
I will. She'll kick my ass. Right, anyway, yeah, but Ineos came with all the, they were supposed to be like professional outfit, they're very intricate in how they go about their business. It was well known that they didn't want Ten Hag prior to the FA Cup final, and yet the minds were changed despite, him not being their guy. And now they've rolled the dice and kept him. And I think it'll make them look like absolute idiots to sack him after 6 games in charge in the league. Although that might be the right thing to do. In fact, for me, it's definitely the right thing to do.
Yeah, I get your point, and I agree. I think it is, his time has come to an end. That performance was just, there's no excusing it at all, and it looked like I don't know about lost the dressing room or whatever, but whatever he's been trying to do isn't working, and there's no excuses. Ineos might be publicly saying, look, he's still our guy. They might even be briefing the press that, and they might be behind the scenes looking at other options. The issue you've got is, during the summer, like you mentioned there, Ineos made a big song and dance publicly, pretty much because all the media knew about it, interviewing other managers.
Yeah.
So it's like, you ask a girl out or whatever, or you're going out with someone, and then you say, well, actually, I'm going to dump you and go out with someone else. And they say, well, I don't want you. And then you go back to the one you dumped.
Yeah,
you say, actually, I do want you after all. And she's like, hang on a minute, you didn't want me. You can fuck off. And that's how it feels with Ten Hag. Now, they go to, with Manchester United and Ineos. If they go to, say, Thomas Tuchel, they're going to be going back to Thomas Tuchel going, we didn't want you in the summer, but now he's really shit. We want you now. Is he going to be put off by that? Will he have a sense of pride that goes, no? Or will he go, well, it is Manchester United, it's still a big job? Is that the foundations for a positive working relationship?
Personally, that's only on the belief that the Thomas Tuchel meeting actually ended where they said they didn't want him.
Okay,
because there are rumours that came about there that he wasn't too keen on taking the Manchester United job because maybe he wanted a rest. And I think they probably plays more to Thomas Tuchel if he joins now. For me, he'd be the obvious replacement at Manchester United to take over United in this position rather than, because remember Klopp took over from Rodgers, didn't he, about October time when Rodgers got sacked. And you get a free hit at the whole season there pretty much, don't you, after the first 6 games. But I'm not too convinced that it was a case of Ratcliffe going, right, Tuchel's not the one for us. I just think it might have been a conversation. He might have said, oh, well, I want some time off, I'm not ready to jump straight back in. We might phone you in a couple of months to see how it carries on with Erik Ten Hag. I mean, the other names on the list do not fill me with glory at all. The likes of Southgate, Potter.
That's my only caveat with all this. I think Erik Ten Hag's time is done. I just don't want Gareth Southgate to replace him. I think that Gareth Southgate would be an unmitigated disaster at Manchester United. You have to come up with someone better than that. You've got to come up with someone who's got a form of pedigree in club football. Gareth Southgate's only experience in club football as a manager is getting Middlesbrough relegated and then getting sacked while they were in the Championship. I mean, that I don't forget the England thing, right? Managing England, yes, he did a decent job with England. I'm not saying he didn't, but that has got absolutely nothing to do with managing Manchester United Football Club whatsoever.
No,
and you can't use that as a sort of an example of how good he is or ready he is to take on the Manchester United job. And I think of all the managerial appointments we've had post Alex Ferguson, Gareth Southgate would be the most underwhelming, and it'd probably be the one where he'd have the majority of fans against it.
Oh, can you imagine that first week is not going to be fun for if he ever got that job? No. That would probably be the most underwhelming Manchester United managerial signing, worse than David Moyes, and he took over from Fergie. Do you know what I mean? So for Southgate taking over a team that's currently 12 and still not coming to any rapturous welcome would be sort of indicative about how the fans feel about him. The thing is with Southgate, and I completely agree with everything that he did as his club career, and I've said consistently that he hasn't won a trophy with that England team and had loads of attempts at it. I think he's a failure given the calibre of players that he's got available. What the rumours are saying is that the likes of Ashworth and Wilcox are looking at more of a sort of, and I hate the phrase, cultural reset at Old Trafford, because how he changed the changing room for England and how players are getting on well with each other a lot more. So basically he's coming in with a sort of holiday camp guide, which is what Manchester United really want, a Butlins FC.
You can imagine just the lunatics will be running the asylum. If he imagine him walking into that changing room, right? And it's like, look, for all Erik Ten Hag's faults, yeah, and we can agree that he's got some. He was a manager who had pedigree and success at Ajax, and even at Manchester United has won stuff. Now Gareth Southgate's going to come in and he's going to say to all these players that have won, don't for every single player almost, even some of the new signings like De Ligt has won titles, Casemiro's won Champions Leagues, Martinez has won the World Cup. All of them practically have won the FA Cup and the League Cup, and some of the new signings have done well in other clubs as well. He's going to come in and he's going to be like, right, here's what we're going to do. Here's how you need to listen to me, because listen, I took England to 2 finals. That's not going to cut it for me.
No, I don't think he's on the back foot from the off, isn't he, in that situation?
I don't think the players will respond to that. And I think if you're someone like anyone really, and you're looking for a manager to come in and inspire you and show you, look, I've got the tactics, I've got the nous, I've got the ability to move this club forward. You need someone with a bit more pedigree. There needs
to be a level of admiration from the players who are saying, I'm excited to be managed by this coach. And don't forget that some of the players are I think Luke Shaw's got a decent relationship with Southgate, but Rashford certainly hasn't. So, whilst he's not playing great or pulling up any trees for Ten Hag, I'm not too sure how much he'll be doing it.
No, and you're right, and Luke Shaw, as we all know, it's great having someone on board who's injured all the time. That's not going to do you any
someone
good.
To sit next to him in the dugout, isn't it?
Yeah, to welcome him to the other English player, like you say, is Marcus Rashford, or the predominant one. Harry Maguire's probably not got a great relationship with him because he didn't take him to the Euros.
Kobbie Mainoo didn't get as many minutes as he should have done.
Kobbie Mainoo might, I don't know. I mean, he gave him his debut, I suppose, but that's by the by. I think Kobbie Mainoo is one of the few players you can say no matter what will play for that shirt. And I don't think he needs Gareth Southgate there to motivate him. Looking at the odds here, the next United manager, the top, or the one with the sort of the most likely one, I should say, around, I think it's around 2-1, is Ruud van Nistelrooy. How would you feel about Ruud van Nistelrooy?
I don't know, not on a permanent basis initially. But I mean, you could take him on an interim and do the Ollie thing, but then that sometimes comes back to bite you when he does well and then you offer him a contract.
Do you know what I don't like though? I understand your point, but what happened with Ollie is completely different to what this would be like with Ruud now. Because I think we go, it's an ex-player, and if you do that, it's going to be the same. I think what happened with Ollie was we made a mistake in terms of when we offered him the permanent deal.
After the Paris Saint-Germain game?
Yeah. No, it wasn't that. That would have made some sense. we went to Paris. We got through to the quarterfinals of the Champions League for the last time in our history, by the way. We then played Arsenal in the league, and I think we just got into the top 4. We lost. We then went to Wolves in the FA Cup. We got knocked out of the FA Cup. Then we offered him the permanent job. So we'd just been knocked out of the FA Cup, and we'd just been dropped out of the top 4 after amazing everyone to get in there. And then we offered him the deal, and we didn't realise at the time was those 2 losses were the start of a horrendous run. Yeah. There was loads of losses. If we'd have just took a step back and go, let's wait until the end of the season, then they might have gone, well, he's had a good run up to Paris, and then post-Paris has been a disaster. Let's maybe not offer him a new deal or offer him a permanent deal. Now, I like Ollie, and I think there was a lot of good times with him as manager, so I'm not going to totally, dismiss what he did as a permanent manager. He had, finished 3rd, 2nd, and got to some finals, whatever. But it didn't end successfully. I think had they took a step back, they probably wouldn't have given him that job. But they rushed, and I don't know why it was. Why after 2 losses you get awarded it.
Well, it's just the Glazers again, wasn't it? Ridiculous decisions making from Woodward and the likes. But Van Nistelrooy,
if you gave Van Nistelrooy the job on an interim manager basis or caretaker manager basis, and waited until the end of the season to see where we ended up and what he'd achieved then, maybe you can make a rational decision then. And you go, look, if we finished 7th and we didn't win out, thanks, Ruud, but you're not the guy. However, if we finished 2nd or whatever and we've done well in the cups, you might go, well, actually, look at what he's done. That was the problem for me with the Ollie appointment.
He talks a good game, though, doesn't he, Ruud van Nistelrooy? Did you see many of the interviews? It felt like there was a bit of a PR campaign when he actually started at United, because there was a lot of interviews about like his managerial sort of tactics.
At the open training session, it felt like he was...
Was he Ten Hag's appointment, do you think? Because I'm not too sure whether he was.
I don't know. It seems like the kind of appointment that perhaps Ineos will have suggested and Ten Hag would have been all right with. Because you think, okay, there's obviously the Dutch connection. Yeah. He's a well-respected coach, and he's also a club legend. And I think if you're Ten Hag, you've got to have a little bit of confidence in your own ability to think that I don't need to worry about him taking over from me because I'm going to be successful. I'm going to turn this around. Now, if you're not thinking that, then you're in trouble. If you're thinking this guy's going to take my job when the wheels start coming off, that's an issue, because why are you expecting the wheels to come off anyway? So I don't know, it is a difficult one, because I don't think there was a strong connection with them. I think we're both Dutch. That's not enough.
Yeah.
It wasn't like Ruud came from PSV, obviously, when he was a manager there. Ten Hag was from FC20, and then obviously Ajax. So there's a loose connection. I don't know. I think it felt a bit more like Ineos
suggested him,
and it was right. I presume it was agreed upon by Erik Ten Hag, but I don't know.
On the other foot, then Ruud van Nistelrooy was offered managerial positions in the summer. Could there have been, and this is hypothetical, a conversation with the board? If it's not working out with Ten Hag, then we might see you to bump up for a bit.
I don't know. Maybe they had that conversation. I think that's it's bad form if they did. I don't think anyone.
Wait! It's bad form. But these are people that were managing, that were interviewing people for a job that wasn't available. I mean,
that's true.
The form's already bad.
That is bad. If they did do that, Anthony Jarvis says Ruud did say that Erik called him to convince him to join him in Rio's videos. So there you go. That's the from the horse's mouth. If they were saying just come and keep the bench warm until we get rid of him, that's shocking. And I don't think Ruud would have gone for that. You think he'd have to have an element of
a bit more scruples.
Yeah,
and you wouldn't want to work for someone that had that sort of sinister side to him. And I imagine they would have, because they're hugely successful business people. Right, here's a question then. So if you're looking at a replacement for Erik Ten Hag, which we think we both agree he will eventually go.
Yeah.
And you were talking before about pedigree. So we've gone for Jose Mourinho. Probably the latter stages of his career. We won Europa League, but it wasn't great. Van Gaal, tactical genius in the 90s. David Moyes was going to be the new Ferguson. Solskjaer, United legend coming back. And none of them have worked. Ten Hag, when we signed him, was arguably, his star was the highest in terms of emerging managers across Europe.
100%.
With what he did at Ajax.
Yeah.
Where do United go in terms of, not so much a name, but what are you looking for? So would you want, has to have won a league title in a specific country? Because for me, the problem with going from a Dutch league, and you can go back through the Premier League, there's not that many Dutch managers that have been successful over there and come over here and done it.
No, there isn't.
So what do you want? Champions League winner, league winner? Has to have, what's the makeup of this manager, if you could choose?
I think you could get an up-and-coming coach who maybe hasn't won as many trophies as others, but is going to be the next big thing. And I think that doesn't necessarily have to be a Champions League winner. I mean, how many Champions League winners are out there that are available for starters? I mean, Ancelotti's won loads of them, hasn't he, recently? I know you're not going to get him. Then you've got, obviously, Pep Guardiola who's won one. Thomas Tuchel has won one, to be fair. Not that long ago, was it 2021? So he's available. But other than that, there's not loads of Champions League. Jose's won, but he's not going to come back to Manchester United. He's won a couple. Fergie's not going to come back. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's not an abundance of Champions League winners.
So we're not getting the elite then. So what's next?
Like, doesn't necessarily make you an elite because, for example, Thomas Tuchel's won a Champions League. Xabi Alonso hasn't, but I'd say Xabi Alonso is a better manager right now than Thomas Tuchel. I'd certainly say Xabi Alonso is a better manager than Jose Mourinho because he's stars on the rise. And if you look at the way Leverkusen have been doing, there's a manager who, with limited resources, has managed to. And you know what? It might not even be the guy that's won everything. Like Thiago Motta at Bologna and has now gone to Juve. Was a manager who everyone was raving about, and he hadn't won a Champions League, but he was a progressive manager who's on the up. So sometimes you might have to look at that, and I always say this, I'm not someone who works for Ineos, whose job it is to go out and find the next Manchester United manager. I'd hope there are smarter people that know far more about football than I do, who do know who the next good manager is out there, who do look at different leagues, who do look at styles of play, who do look at the sort of the tactical nous of some of these coaches and these managers and go, he's someone.
Well, that's why we signed these players. That's why we signed all these board members with that expertise, wasn't there? And there were rumours whether Barada and Ashworth had any involvement with keeping Ten Hag on in the summer because I don't think some of them had officially signed. Right, but who would you sort of? Is there a name out there at all that you go for? For me, Thomas Tuchel just seems like the name that's available out there, but these links with Thomas Frank. I've seen one with Allegri, which I imagine the football, if people weren't entertained by Jose Mourinho football, then if Allegri came to Old Trafford, that's not going to work. Is there any names that sort of tickling your fancy? And is there not a gamble as well with that, getting up and coming managers?
Yeah, of course there is. Yeah, massively.
I mean, I think whoever we're getting, it's going to be a huge gamble. Yeah. And we're going to be on, like, with the signings we've made this summer, were they Ten Hag signings?
You'd think they were.
And then, so we're going to get another manager. Are we going to get another manager that's, going to try and play like Ten Hag was supposed to play, or we're going to get a manager that's going to come in with his own ideas?
The good thing with a good manager is a good manager can adapt anyway, and a good manager can get a tune out of certain players. And also, a lot of these players, like Matthijs de Ligt, I think could play for almost anyone. I don't think he needs an Erik Ten Hag to tell him how to play football as a centre-back. I don't think Nasser Mazraoui particularly can only play for an Erik Ten Hag team. He's a very, very talented player. And then you look at Xerxes and Højlund, they're totally different. So it's not like you go, well, I can only use Xerxes, I can only use Højlund. These are two completely different strikers.
A lot of options there.
Yeah, and you could argue the same with almost any of your front attackers, your front three. They're all different types of attackers, aren't they? So you think that if you bring in a different manager, you might be able to get a tune out of certain players. A manager might come in and he goes, Diallo and Garnacho are my guys with Rasmus Højlund. Or another manager might go, Rashford and Xerxes and Antony are my three. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that's the case, but that, a different manager.
There's enough variety there across the squad, isn't there?
Yeah,
to offer alternative ways of play. But isn't that quite telling then on Ten Hag that he has all that at his abundance and still can't get a tune out of it? Is that not the biggest indictment about where his downfall has been, that he's got that variety? And don't forget, last season, he had the injuries as an excuse. Now he hasn't got the injuries as an excuse and still can't get a tune out of him. Is that not a huge indictment in terms of his lack of ability?
The biggest indictment was yesterday because of the amount of players that he'd brought in that started. Look at that starting 11. 8 players were either signed by Erik Ten Hag or brought through the academy into the first team by Erik Ten Hag and given their Premier League first Premier League debut by him. So you look at the whole back five, I think, other than Delo. So obviously Onana was his signing, and I thought Onana actually was one of the few that did okay against Spurs. He did well, I thought. Mazraoui was his signing, De Ligt his signing, Martinez is his signing. Who else we've got? Kobbie Mainoo we brought in through the academy. Ugarte is his signing. Who else started? Was it Xerxes is his signing? Rashford obviously he inherited. Bruno inherited, and then was Garnacho again brought through the academy. So it's not like you can say this isn't my team. This is your team. This is the players that you've either brought or given debuts to and trusted. Yep. Alejandro Garnacho started 29 games, whatever it was, on the spin. Kobbie Mainoo's basically started every game he's been available for since he made his debut. So you can't say, oh, well, these are just kids that I've just been stuck with. You gave them a debut, you've trusted them. And then all the others are signings, other than the likes of Bruno and Rashford and Delot. 3 players out of a starting 11. That's your side. That's your team, really. So that was the biggest indictment for me, was the fact that I gave him the sort of leeway with injuries last season.
You had faith.
Yeah, I did, because I thought the injuries was a real issue. The amount of times the centre-backs changed, the amount of times the defence changed, I felt that was... it doesn't excuse everything. You should still be beating Bournemouth and teams like that, but I thought because of what he'd done the season before and because of some of the games we had under him last season, he deserves to be given a start this season. And I think there's still an element of me that thinks it was the right thing to do, because I think had he not been, there'd always be this question mark of, 2 trophies, did we get rid of the wrong manager? I think he'd earned the right to be given a start, but I said it so many times, he had to start well. And we got to the point where me and you'd give up on the Liverpool game, and I said, right, the next 3 games was it Southampton, Palace, Spurs, 7 points. He's got to take 7 points out of those games. And he won the easiest one. Yeah. And even then, I'm not disputing that Southampton performance, because it was a good performance, but
it could have gone the other way.
They missed the penalty.
It could have gone the other way.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. He scores that, and also the regular penalty taker who scored the last 10 penalties didn't take it, which, all right, nice Cheers. One. Thanks for that. Don't know why, but we'll have it. So yeah, there was an element of that could have gone another way. Obviously, a 3-0 win is a 3-0 win. I don't want to be too harsh on the kid. But then Palace, you can go, okay, we played quite well for an hour. Should have took our chances. You have to beat Spurs. I cannot stress that enough. And if you don't, and me and you always talk about this with context, this is why I hate doing predictions, because you can lose to Spurs where you dominate them and you hit the post 10 times and their keeper has the game of his life, and you have a terrible VAR decision against your decision where you get a penalty given and they score it and they win 1-0. And you go, well...
It's a lucky win or loss.
But that performance before the red card was abject. It just was terrible. 2 minutes. I looked when the scoreboard when they scored the opening goal. 2 minutes 50 seconds. The game's over almost before 3 minutes. It's terrible.
Where do you think it's gone wrong in terms of Ten Hag at Manchester United? Is there anything that you sort of said, or is it his style of tactics that he's been trying to place on the players? For me, a lot of it's been... Any mistakes that we've made don't seem to be eradicated the following game. The last season when we were like shipping late goals. How many late goals did we ship last season? Like Onana would switch off, or the back 4 would switch off. Okay, that happens once, all right, maybe twice, it's forgivable. But as soon as them mistakes happen, when they're on a training field the following week, Ten Hag should be bringing them in and going, look at this, you never do this again, right? Then mistakes will get made week in, week out. You look at the goal that we conceded against Twente in the Europa. It was near enough a carbon copy than the goal that we conceded against Spurs. Them mistakes are not getting eradicated. And for me, it just feels like whatever he's teaching or trying to get across to the players, whether it's due to his lack of communication skills, his personality has come, he's been under scrutiny during his time at Old Trafford, but it's not getting across. Is it because of them or him? Where do you put it down to? Why hasn't it worked?
I think you have to. The players have to take some responsibility, because some of the goals we've conceded, like Eriksen giving the ball away against 20, as you mentioned there, I don't blame that on Sarri. I think that's Eriksen switching off. I think some of the goals we saw yesterday, Delot not tracking Brennan Johnson, it's just shocking defending.
That's his arm up as well at the end.
Yeah, like you're playing football on the park with your mates.
Like Soz, mate.
Soz, lads.
I'll take that one.
What are you doing? Why have you stopped tracking him? You can see he's rapid. You can keep up with him now, so do that. But he just sort of gave up. So that is on the players, but also the manager has to take responsibility. It's the manager's job to get these players playing a certain way, to get them believing in him. I don't think at times Sir Alex Ferguson, who for me is the greatest manager who's ever lived, was necessarily the biggest tactical genius. I think he could be I think he gets underrated with some of his tactics. But I think the ability that Fergie had, better than any manager that's ever lived, was getting the best performances out of players. Like Tom Cleverley and Danny Welbeck and people like Anderson, who's got 4 Premier League title winning medals, whatever he's got, and Cleverley's got one after he played 30 games. Yeah. Jones has got a couple. The reason these players have got these titles, and the reason they played so many games in title winning sides and gave the performances, is because of Fergie. He was able to motivate players, able to get the best out of them, able to use them in the right way. So a lot of these players, when he left United, they didn't go to, I know we had some that did, like Ronaldo, but they didn't go to Real Madrid or Barcelona. Some of them went to like
Watford
Everton or Watford.
Yeah.
And you know, had mid-table Premier League careers, no disrespect to them. But when they were at United, they were winning all these trophies and playing a big part in, you know, I've seen players, like Darren Gibson scored an absolute worldie in a Champions League quarter-final. Like, he could
Jordi Cruyff, Karel Faborski, there were players that
he
were
was able to get the best out of these players, and I think Erik Ten Hag struggles to do that.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, I know all roads lead back to Sir Alex Ferguson, but the belief that he could instill in players and make them punch above their weight seems massively at odds at what Erik Ten Hag's been able to do at the players at his disposal. Because I would say, by and large, in terms of when you compare him, our average players under Ten Hag to Ferguson, I think he's probably got a better squad. Do you know what I mean in that sense? In terms of, like, you know, cleverly to a Xerxes. But we seem to be punching below our weight so often. Like, the players are just, you look at Marcus Rashford in his first season under Ten Hag, absolutely brilliant. It's not, where's the enthusiasm now? And that's the thing for me as well. You're playing for Manchester United now, but anyone should be able to run out for that badge and that pay packet week in, week out. But we know what footballers are like, and we know that they can fall off. The manager has to make sure that there's enthusiasm, you know, regardless. That should be the first and foremost. Like, if you've got enthusiasm, that makes up for a hell of a lot of ability.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of ability, but we've no enthusiasm with it.
No, I'm going to get some comments. Sorry, not
Make sure
comments.
Subscribing and liking as well, by the way.
Yeah, hit that like button, please, people. We've got almost 200 people watching. We've only got 29 likes.
I'm not talking until we get
let's get some more likes. Ross McPherson says Inzaghi from Inter also. Heaven Soul says, I think Inzaghi's the front runner, but I don't know if he's what we need. Andy Jarvis says, that's my main problem with Ten Hag. This is pretty much his team now, and the attitude is the same as before he joined. 3 goals says, get Ollie in his caretaker and make a permanent appointment at the end of the season. Maybe Ollie will get it. Turn that up. I'll name
Let me know that Scotty and Motty starting.
Oh, that's good. I'll name this podcast later. It says it was shocking. That's why I think they panicked. I think after the goal, they were in their head saying, shit, what is going to be the backlash? So they lose their belief and all hell breaks loose. I mean, we just need calmer heads to prevail. 3 Gold also says how the players perform is the responsibility of the manager. DB Cooper says, I don't even really enter the manager in or out arena. Managers are extremely important, and I don't deny it. But without a good group of physically, mentally strong players, there is no hope. That worries me a little bit. Mick Holohan says, hold me, Che. You need a core group of almost leaders, don't you, in any team?
Yeah.
Because you look at Arne Slot, who's come in at Liverpool, and let's not forget, right, it's early doors. The wheels could come off for this guy very quickly. Like, we've seen managers go into clubs, have a great start, and then Postecoglou last season had a great start, and then at the end they finished 6th or whatever.
Yeah, and they weren't having a great season before Ten Hag gave them 3 points.
No, that's what I mean. So I'm not saying that Arne Slot is obviously a running success, but he's done well since so far, and I think he's helped by the fact he's got a core group of players who are either world class and or leaders. So you've got your fullbacks, Alexander-Arnold and Robertson, who are pretty much at the top of their game and seem to have, you know, be leader type players in that defence. Virgil van Dijk is a leader and a very good defender. Unfortunately, it pains me to say, he just is. Mo Salah is one of the best wingers in the world. He just is, and he's guaranteeing you 30 goals a season, and he's still got it. There's your and Alisson Becker, who's probably the best goalkeeper in the world, in my opinion. So you've got a core group of players who are leaders and absolutely mint.
Yep.
United don't have that. I don't think we've got those players where you can go in and go, these are your leaders or these are your players that you can ultimately rely on. I think we've got some that on their day are, but they're not enough players who are consistently. Martinez was one.
Bruno.
The issue you've got with Martinez is, unfortunately for the manager, I think we missed him last season. I think had Martinez stayed fit last season, we would have finished higher than 8th, but he didn't, so we didn't. Bruno, something's going on with him. I agree. Yeah. I like Bruno. I love Bruno Fernandes.
Not scored this season, has he?
I don't know what's going on. I don't know if he's just mental fatigue, just the expectation, the weight of everything, the amount of minutes he's played, just physically fatigued. But he's just been... This is the worst I've seen Bruno in a spell for United.
Which is, I mean, post his new contract as well, which is the massive... Yeah, I heard Andy Mitten talk on a podcast earlier on today, and he was saying that after the Wembley win, he interviewed 5 players, and they were neither Ten Hag should stay or Ten Hag should go, but they were saying that if he does stay, certain things have got to change.
Ex-players, yeah.
No, his words were players that he spoke to. He didn't name them, saying that some things would have to change if Ten Hag stayed. So do you think there's that level of like, because there were rumours of Casemiro and Varane that came out and said that they weren't too pleased with Ten Hag's tactics, that we don't have these leaders as such because they can't be asked playing for Ten Hag. If you look at Rashford, there's definitely got to be something that's gone on there for that long for these sort of performances.
I don't necessarily think with Rashford he's got a problem with the manager, because I think with Rashford his best season came under Erik Ten Hag, and also Ralph Rangnick had an issue with Marcus Rashford. Right, yeah. Ollie at one point, I think he wasn't performing. Jose has publicly slammed Marcus Rashford and said how erratic he could be for him. And I think the idea of how they played under Ruud van Nistelrooy was because he didn't listen to him. Right. We've heard, I think was it Schneiderlin who said that Martial and Rashford played really well under Van Gaal because he ignored what he said, which is one way of doing things. And also they were very young at the time and they were teenagers. Yeah. So I don't know if he might have. I don't know if he's necessarily got an issue with the manager. I think Marcus Rashford, struggles sometimes with the whole noise around him of the expectation, the criticism he gets. He's one of those players that seems to take criticism to heart. You've seen him push it back. Yeah,
he does bear the weight of the world.
You've seen him saying he gets unfairly criticised. You've seen his family. And I think sometimes his family have had the thumbs up from him, pushing back on socials, pushing back in briefings to the press. This isn't fair. So I think that sometimes weighs on Marcus. Because Erik Ten Hag, when he first started, I was at the first press conference he gave over in Thailand. No, sorry, I'm telling lies, over in Melbourne. And he had Marcus sat next to him. And this is after Marcus has had a terrible season under Ralph Rangnick. Yeah. And Erik Ten Hag said, this is a great example of why this academy is so good at Manchester United and why it's so important.
Placed his trust in him.
And Marcus rewarded him with a phenomenal season. I don't know, he might have fallen out of the manager, he might have lost faith in the manager, or he might just have sort of got fed up with the noise and everything around it.
What about the rest of the players then?
I think there's some merit in the Casemiro and Varane argument, but Varane's gone now, and also Casemiro, I just think that we're seeing a player in decline. I don't think you can blame Erik Ten Hag for some of the performances we've seen from Casemiro. Other players...
There's a lot there, though. That's just like you said yesterday, is that there's a lot there that he signed that wouldn't be at Manchester United if it wasn't for him. Yeah. Which is worrying if you look at how much of a sort of Dutch contingency or 7 degrees of separation from Erik Ten Hag that we've got at Old Trafford. If he isn't the man that's there anymore, and somebody else comes in, I don't know. It feels like like a big jigsaw to start.
Sometimes you think that players who've been brought by a manager would play for that manager, and
that's what I mean. It's weird. It's just like
a new manager could come in and he might go, well, Mazraoui's not for me. Yeah. Eriksen's definitely not for me. I don't rate De Ligt. I'm going to play Maguire. You don't know. I think that'd be a crazy decision, but
you don't know what. Yeah. You don't know.
They might say, well, I want Maguire's Premier League experienced player. I want him in the team. I don't rate. I don't know, Xerxes. I'm going to start Marcus down the middle. So you think, well, okay, this is the manager that signed me, this is the manager that's shown some faith in me, giving me starts and whatnot, I'm going to reward him with a performance. But we're not seeing that.
That's what I mean. Again, with that, to sort of suggest that there is something going on within the sort of the dressing room.
That'd be worrying, though, wouldn't it? I mean,
it is worrying. If got the spank 3-0 at home.
If players that have only just come in, like De Ligt and Mazraoui, have given up with him already, Xerxes.
But was that not a performance yesterday that looked like players are going like, I can't be asked with this. Now, we're going to go to Porto on Thursday night, aren't we? Do you think players...
I'm going, actually.
Are you going? Yeah. I'll cheers for the invite. What time are you flying out?
Early doors, 8 o'clock in the morning. Oh. I got offered some ticket and free accommodation, so...
Oh, that's nice.
And I got a pass off my lovely lady friend who I'm very grateful for.
Oh, that's cool, isn't it? Just watching tonight, yeah. You're being a KFC on for her.
Don't put ideas. I'll get a message now.
Make sure you're subscribing, liking. Do you think that he's got to go, and who do you think will replace him? When do you think he'll go? If he goes?
International break, I think.
Is that a good time to go?
Looking at the fixtures after the international break, I think it's preferable for the new manager.
Because you've got Porto Villa.
You got Brentford. Yeah, Porto Villa. Villa away is horrible. So you don't want to give a new manager his first Premier League game is Villa Park.
Have a load of Emery for your debut.
Yeah, there you go. Well, we lost 5-0 and you're on to an absolute stinker already. But after the international break, you've got Brentford at home, which is a winnable match. Fenerbahce away, tricky but doable. West Ham away, again, tricky but doable. Leicester at home, the Carabao, meh. Chelsea at home, again, tricky but doable. Then you've got PAOK at home.
At the return of Anthony Martial.
Yeah, I forgot about that, but good point. Leicester at home in the league, Ipswich away in the league.
That's decent, that.
Bold Glimt at home in the Europa. I don't know either. Everton at home.
That's a villain in it from a Bond film.
Exactly.
Bold old Glimt.
Older. Everton at home. And then you've got Arsenal away, which obviously is one of the two trickiest games you can have.
But that's a good run.
You could have put a run together there, couldn't you? You could do a bit of a Solskjaer and go. By the time you go into that Arsenal game, you could be in the top 4.
Why not? So why not sack him now and then have Ruud him for 2 games? Do you think it'd make any difference to the result on Thursday or against Villa?
I think sacking him now on a Monday when you fly out probably on a Wednesday is probably a bit of a stretch.
If we didn't have these 2 games, if we didn't have Porto midweek, I think he'd be gone.
Do you reckon?
I think he'd be gone. And
also, from the noises we heard, this giving him a bit of time. I think they take stock properly in the international break. Look at where we're at. There might. I'm not saying there should be, but there might be an element of they even look at the Porto and Villa games. And if you
where do you lie
Villa,
on that?
Maybe
though?
you go. I think I told you.
There's no way.
I can't keep. There's no point in me saying he has to do this and then he doesn't, and I go, okay, forget that.
Yeah.
I said he had to take 7 points. He didn't, and that's why I think it's time for him to go. I'm sorry. I don't want to keep repeating myself. I said it on air and at Paddock, but I will. That Spurs game was for me the perfect game for you to just sort of show what you're about. Spurs are a beatable team. They play quite a high line. They've got a manager himself has struggled a little bit. They've got players who are good but not unbelievable. Historically, Spurs haven't got a great record against Manchester United. I think we've taken more points off them than almost anyone. And injury-wise, you had a pretty injury-free squad apart from your left-back. I know it's a big part of the team, but it's not like we're injury-ravaged. And also, on the day, I find out that Heung-min Son's missing, who's their captain, top player, best player, top scorer, talisman, everything. He's missing. So you think, right, this is tailor-made for you to go out there, get a result, put in a performance, and it's a big scalp because people respect Spurs. And okay, you beat Spurs, let's kick on from that. And we didn't just lose, we lost badly. And you can't even blame the red card as much as I love to blame officials because we were shite before the red card. It should have been
about 5 or 6. Now, if Maddison or the team over Werner learns how to finish a 101,
I give him. I know you
subscribe and like.
I give him. I got to give Onana some credit for that as well. People just going, they finished. I thought he did some good saves.
No, that's what I mean. But regardless, a great good save and stuff and bad finish. But yeah, he should have. It could have been 5. No.
Martial is at Athens. People saying, we know it's a joke. Andy James says, love sacking managers. Us turned into Chelsea. Even Chelsea are doing all right under Maresca. I don't know if that one will last. I'll be honest with you. I think there's an element of they're in a good bit of form and Cole Palmer's unplayable. But yeah, Enzo Maresca's coming in and he's basically done what the new United manager might need to do. He's just gone, look, this is my squad. These are the players I want. The rest of him.
Well, that was a massive punt though for Chelsea. We were talking before about taking a shot on like up and coming managers. Had he just won the championship with Leicester? Is that right?
Yeah.
And then Chelsea signed it. That's a huge sort of
Yeah, I think they probably looked at his personality, what they had. They got 40-odd players. They needed somebody who could come in and be ruthless. And he's that guy. And he came in and he just basically said, I ain't got all these players. I don't know what you're on about. Half of them aren't playing for me. And you needed that. You can't keep 40 players happy in a squad. And if you do, you're going to fail. He made his 20-odd, squad. He's used them and he's used them effectively. I just feel like it's far too early to start getting out the bunting for Enzo Maresca.
No, yeah. But
I know you're not.
What I'm saying is, it was a risk. It might be the sort of risk that Manchester United might have to take with an upcoming manager.
Yeah,
Kieran McKenna. It probably cost him a fortune to get him now.
When we were linked with him, the managers we were linked with, I said, if you're going to take a punt on someone completely left field. Why not just go for McKenna, who's an up-and-coming coach and who's done miracles at Ipswich and at least knows Manchester United? I think that ship sailed.
Carrick?
I'd have Michael Carrick back at Manchester United, but I think the argument might be, as he set the world alight at Middlesbrough, he's done all right there, and also, does that not feel a bit odd? Sort of going, right, we've got rid of Ole, Michael Carrick leaves, then 3 years later he comes back as the manager. It just feels a little bit, I don't know, I know you can make that argument with McKenna, but it just feels a little bit of a weird move, that. I don't know. I feel like Michael Carrick would have to do a bit more at Middlesbrough to justify bringing him back. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying he's done a bad job at Middlesbrough, but I don't think he's done enough to go get him in. He did a very good job as caretaker for that brief spell he had. Oh, interim, I should say.
If you could pick one manager to replace Ten Hag and put you on the spot right now?
It's a good question.
Surgeon Ratcliffe phones you up, says, listen, Jay, we've been watching Scotty and Motty and we see you outside in the rain on your Parker on every morning outside for Stretford Paddock. What do you think? Who do you think United should get?
If we could get anyone, I know he's got the Scouts connection, so I don't know if he'd even want to come, and maybe people would be unhappy about it.
Jurgen Klopp?
Yeah.
He's not got a job.
I think someone like Alonso would be a good manager, wouldn't he? But I know, I'm just looking now, Leverkusen are 4th, but they're only 5 games in and 3 points off top, so it's not like they've had a terrible start. They've won 3 out of 5. I think as well, someone like I'm sort of going for flavour of the month here, but Thiago Motta's done quite well. They've drawn a lot of games, but again, Juve 1 point off the top. Maybe someone like that.
He's only just gone there this summer. I can't see Thiago Motta.
Maybe like if I had
right.
No, I don't. We won't get either of these.
Oh, right.
But if you're saying you can wave a magic wand,
and you're not going for Ancelotti,
that would be a magic wand. I don't know. Yeah, I suppose if you get Ancelotti, get Pep Guardiola and have him. If you're going to just wave magic wands, yeah, why not? Do you know what I mean? I may as well get him.
Do you think it was Southgate? Because my gut feeling says yes. I just think he's a yes man.
Yeah, I think
he's linked with Ashworth, and I just think that they might want more control over the football team.
I think Gareth Southgate is our Avram Grant at Chelsea. I think we could very well end up with Gareth Southgate.
For a year or two, and then get somebody else.
Well, I think they get him in, give him a 4-year deal, but end up sacking him after a year when he's turned out to be far worse than the person he replaced.
But are you not sort of, after watching yesterday's performance, not gone like, Southgate might not be a bad option? No. Okay.
We're going to wrap it up there.
It wasn't that bad.
Thanks for everyone who got involved in the chat.
Subscribe and like.
Make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe. Also, we appreciate you supporting our channel with our Patreon. I'll put a little cheeky link in there as well in the chat to support us on Patreon. Go and check that out. That's been Scotty. I've been Motty. This has been Scotty and Motty. Thanks for watching.